gentlemen, we've had a good day in the markets as far as the broader structure is concerned. Two pain points which we'll discuss later. IT index is down 1.5% and two private sector banks, IDFC First Bank, AU Bank, embroiled in a controversy which is hitting the stock price for both counters, as also UPL, which has decided to list separately one of its major product divisions. So those are the stocks that are in pain. But across the board, the private sector bank and the public sector banking space doing pretty well. Record highs on State Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Indian Bank. In top shape, PNB Bank, Canara Bank and Bank of India. So that's the state of play. Axis Bank doing pretty well, HDFC in strength, and of course signs of strength coming into Kotak as well as ICICI Bank as well. That's the structure of the market. IT down, banks in good shape, and of course metals showing signs of profit booking. Very strong setups coming into the manufacturing space. Look at Cummins India, look at Bharat Forge, Power India, NTPC. All of these stocks are in top shape. But what needs to be done, ladies and gentlemen, is welcoming Mr. Deven Choksey, MD, DR Choksey Financial Services Private Limited. Namaste, Deven Bhai. A very warm welcome. How do you see this tariff structure issue now that is playing out in the US? India has suspended negotiations with the US because of that 18%, 15% difference. How are you watching the markets?
Yeah, Shail, good morning. Well, I think the clear tariff advantage that we have had when we signed the interim order on 6th of February this month, I think that probably is going away with this particular move which has just happened in following 15 days. So frankly, there is no point further brainstorming on this subject till the point of time the trade body of both the sides of the government, I think, decides the final list as to how they want to negotiate with each other. In my viewpoint, I think nothing changes, frankly, if you ask me. India, on one side, stands extremely advantageously positioned today because today we are basically exporting those items which are our strength and that nobody else in the world could possibly match. I think that is very easy to understand, except leave aside textile for a while, and that too customer, the apparel part. I think this is something which you should be leaving aside for a while. Technical textile, we are still better off. So I guess I think the situation today in America, they want to re-establish their dominance in whichever way they can. However, I think it's going to be extremely challenging in the given environment. Most of the countries, including Brazil, is talking about trading in their own currency with India. India is trading with Russia in rupee and ruble. Brazil is wanting to carry out trade in their own currency, and similar situation with others. So which means I think we are entering into a phase of de-dollarization, which is again going to be creating a larger pain, even if I think one level of bilateral trade agreement gets settled with America. So frankly, at this point of time, we are looking more at the Indian companies, their earning potential, their opportunity, those areas we are more focusing on. We are not typically, I think, giving too much of attention at this point of time due to ever-changing situation in the US-India trade. Till the time it settles down, I think it is better to focus only on few things, I think, which we understand best.
Okay. Deven Bhai, the state of play in the PSU banking sector is extremely bullish. Apart from State Bank of India, what is your top pick as far as DR Wealth Research team is concerned?
So honestly, Shail, I think we believe that in the league, there should be four strong state banks, I think the PSU banks in the league. State Bank is already established with 40 lakh crore AUM. Next could be, I think, a consortium led by Bank of Baroda, consortium led by Bank of India, consortium led by one more bank, which is Northern Bank, Punjab National Bank, or whatever it is. Now, suppose if you think as a four distinctly strong banks, which are coming in the same size as what the State Bank of India is eventually, then possibly consolidation exercise that we are talking about in PSB is making sense. To me, it makes sense thereafter. In fact, I think it's not end of the story if they consolidate. It's going to be beginning of a larger challenge. Most of these public sector banks have their traditional business model working. Many of them have adopted backend as far as their IT is concerned. But in the front end, I think they're still far, far, far away from their private sector peers as far as I think their IT and the fintech is concerned. So to me, this is going to be opening up a larger part of the challenge. None of us should get ever more excited about the valuations at this point of time, because these consolidations, even when it happens, it brings along with its own challenges, pains included, and at the same time, some amount of new practices in the books will have to be carried out. So I would be watching it out. I'm not going to be jumping immediately into any of these particular things, but yes, certainly these are the four banks I think which to me makes more sense eventually.
Interesting. Devan bhai, what's the gut feel on IT? Is the worst over? आज भी index 1.4% down है, but many of these stocks are trading at multi-month, my apologies, multi-year lows. How are you looking at the mid-cap IT space? Persistent and Coforge have been stocks that have returned multi-bagger gains over the last 5-6 years. What is your view here?
So fortunately, mid-cap IT companies have got their anchor customers very well established. Fortunately, in most of the cases. Now, having given that situation, I think their anchor customers want them to adapt to the outcome-based billing process as against the time and effort-based billing process, which some of these companies have been carrying out. And I would think that I think in the mid-tier IT companies, that advantage probably I think is already built in, because some of the projects which are being executed, including likes of Persistence or even for that matter likes of KPIT or Tata Technology, they are largely driven by the outcome, the product. On that basis, they are executing the project. And for them to integrate with AI could be relatively, I think, a much smarter move as I see it. So they could possibly, I think, integrate AI in consulting. They could possibly integrate AI in getting the business rules and specification coming out through AI. They could also, I think, get the entire user journey established through AI, and finally coding through AI. Now, having completed the coding part of it, I think they would possibly hand it over to the production side for integrating into the software, those codes. Once those codes get integrated to software, I think finally the customers start using it for the purpose of growing the businesses. And IT companies would probably, I think, say focus more on the production side of the activity and service and maintenance side of the activity. So to me, I think it is probably making more sense. I have a little different view. I feel that AI is going to be an enabler for most of the IT companies. They could possibly see some of the larger contracts, some of the larger businesses which will come for them, because their overseas peers definitely, I think, want this kind of skills and which India possesses. So to me, I think it could be more advantage, though we would be very selective in looking at some of the companies, but I think to me it sounds more advantage than otherwise.
Devan bhai, at this point of time, on balance, what do you prefer more, PSU banks or private banks?
So questions of I think not keeping I think private banks and the NBFC does not arise, because I think Indian NBFCs and the private banks are actually, as I said, have integrated themselves very smartly with the front end technology in the fintech. Some of these banks are lending money based on I think the credit appraisals happening on the front end. These banks are lending money in a faster pace, I think, on every single product which the consumer is buying. So in my viewpoint, I think this is an unbeatable situation for anybody who wants to enter next. They will have to re-innovate or they have to create something different as far as I think the customer's requirement is concerned. Customer is already good on to this way of working. So frankly, consumer lending business is some of the private sector banks are doing the best in my viewpoint. Even in investment segment, some of the consumer lending banks and the investment companies are doing phenomenally good job. So frankly, the public sector banks will have to come up to this level, change, I think, to the next level of technology. And that is not easily done. So I would, as I said, I would be very watchful and careful about I think, adding them in the portfolio. State Bank of India, we had a conviction that this is a large size which is now happening. So that is why I think we added in past State Bank of India. Similar situation, we have a possibility for Bank of Baroda till the time we learn from them. I think we'll have to wait and see. But yes, as of now, we stay invested with some of the large NBFCs, consumer finance NBFCs, and the private sector banks.
Okay, okay. Deven bhai, the manufacturing theme is coming up really well. How are you planning to play this for your clients, for yourself? What is what is the space within the manufacturing sector that you're looking at for decent returns?
Well, I think, as I said before, in the manufacturing, they are the users of the technology in form of AI. And many of the smart manufacturing companies, be it in the area of supplying to the aerospace business, be it in the area of supplying to the critical businesses like defense, say, supplying to the businesses like railways, where the larger amount of growth is already being planned because of the government spending on those areas, including, I think, the power and power utility areas where some of these manufacturing companies are having some bigger programs to integrate the renewable segment of power along with the conventional segment of power into the grid and through the transmission lines. So we feel that I think these are some of the extremely focused areas, well spent money as well. We believe that I think these are the ones I think which are likely to be beneficial, including the ancillaries. Suppose today, if you have to talk about the data center, the ancillaries who are basically responsible for providing, say, for example, power plants to the data center, say, for example, air conditioning systems to the data center, even for that matter, the material which goes into air conditioning, including pipes, etc. I think those are the companies which are likely to be the larger beneficiary of this sector unfolding with a big amount of money being spent. In fact, I think the data centers are going to be spending more money than any of the factories have spent up till now, and we're likely to spend even more. So, frankly speaking, this is where probably we are positioning, selectively picking up some of the companies, keeping the investment horizon for not less than 10 years in some of the cases. And that is where probably we see the opportunity for wealth creation. Yes, individual names, of course, we have, but restrictions, we can't be spelling out them on the show today.
Fair point. That's understandable. Any thoughts that you would have at this point of time on the metal space? February is turning out to be a month where fairly decent highs have been seen on the ferrous side, but aluminium is quiet. How do you see this space at this point of time? What are your bets?
So volatility part, I think, has to subside, has subsided, and I think the regular business is now taking over, so which is a good sign. My differentiator in the metal space would be the ones who have basically added the captive power source for their own requirement, because power is the main raw material for most of the metal business companies, including the white metal as well as the ferrous metals. So from that perspective, I think we would like to see who has got the maximum amount of investment done into the back-end power, the power which is basically used for captive purpose. Those companies which are fully capitalizing those aspects, I think to me, they will be the winners in the market. Because on the other side, the demand scenario is opening up and opening up big time. As I just alluded, the data center part of the activity in the world is going to be inviting some crazy investment in next 5 to 7 years. And that's where probably I think you're going to be seeing the larger amount of participation of metal play moving largely in that direction. So I would think that we will probably go with both ferrous as well as non-ferrous. Though they have appreciated in the last 2 3 months, they may probably cool down. But that would be an opportunity for next 5 to 7 years. Don't expect I think this opportunity for 4 to 3 quarters or something like that. So maybe I think we are more positive about the long-term prospects. Though it may be steady, but yes, I think the growth will be progressing eventually in those 5 to 7 years.
And one good thing, Deven bhai, is happening is how L&T is shaping up. This has been your favorite recommendation for now 3 decades, fresh record high. A view that you may want to offer on valuations as far as L&T and State Bank of India are concerned. Both of them have delivered supernormal returns over the last 6 months or so.
The direction call in L&T is absolutely clear. It was clear before also, it is clear now also. On one side, those people who want to look at the near-term outlook, I think they are getting a visibility of 3.5 to 4 years of revenue because of the order book position that they have secured and they are executing in that particular time. So that part is simply understood. The other side of the activity for a company giant like L&T, which is driven largely by the major projects, where the state governments and the governments of the countries are actually spending money in building those infrastructure projects, not only in India but also in the Gulf region, where they have a larger amount of presence. At the same time, I think they being an engineering company, they are using AI to their advantage. And the time taken to deliver the designs and implementation of those designs has now started shrinking because of the use of AI. So that is again adding into the advantage because of on one side efficiency led advantage that comes to them, cost and saving and advantage comes to them, and a larger projects getting built at a faster pace, largely because of the execution also happening at a faster pace. In my view, but I think it's a win-win thing for a company like L&T as I see it. And they're remaining more relevant in today's environment. Those sectors which I was talking about, like data center, they are relevant. They are relevant in the areas of supplying to the power and power utilities. They are relevant in the areas of supplying to mining and mining machineries. They are relevant in the areas of, I think, supplying to defense, among others. So, frankly speaking, I think this particular company has been catering to those areas where the government is spending. So, they are actually, I think, a shadow alternative to the government infrastructure spending that we are seeing in the country. In fact, few more LNTs, even if they come in this country, they would be more than welcome. But this company definitely deserves to be a steady return provider in your portfolio eventually when you are holding it for 5 to 7 years.
Okay. Deven bhai, what are your thoughts on IDFC First Bank? Terrible times for this mid-cap lender, and today is a 16-17% downtick on very, very heavy volumes. How are you positioning yourself on IDFC First Bank? What is a zone where you would prefer to step into by deep value?
So on the other side, Shail, I think the very important point which has now come to forefront, which we have always been very skeptical about while we talking. See the infrastructure, I think for most of these banks, they assume so much of importance, and I'm talking about IT infrastructure, so that they can have proper surveillance, they can have proper governance, and they can possibly prevent such kind of frauds which have probably happened in this bank at this point of time. Unfortunate it is. But I think that means that I think most of these banks would demand significantly large amount of look at the investment that they're doing in the area of I think security, in the area of infrastructure mechanism, etc. Uh, Larger the balance sheet size, better is your ability to deal with this subject. It's a real threat in the globe. Mid and small size companies are going to be facing huge amount of pressure, be it in the finance side or be it in some other areas of activity because of the larger threat emerging out of the IT and IT-led related infrastructure building and its compliances. So to my understanding, yes, I think they have a very good management at the top. Probably, I think they will do their best to prevent the next time such kind of a situation and put their house in proper shape and order eventually. But this is a real vulnerability. This is a real threat across the industry. It can happen to anybody else tomorrow if they do not command size. So I would always expect. I think the size would prevent you from falling down under something similar which happened to JLR in UK. Because of their size, I think they were saved by even the government of UK from going down under. Otherwise, I think this can kill smaller businesses in no time. So we'll have to be very mindful about putting our money behind some of the mid and small size companies.
Fair point. Painful day, IDFC now down 16%, 70.3 for you. This is a multi-month low for IDFC First Bank. Almost 3,400 crores worth of IDFC First Bank has been traded. Finally, a view on Hindustan Aeronautics, Deven bhai. The bad news just doesn't stop. Another Tejas lost, although the fighter pilot is safe. Bad news in the form of not being a part of AMCA, as also persistent and predictable delays in Tejas delivery. How are you watching this stock?
Yes, I think it's a great company, evolved over a bit of time and continues to evolve further and further. Uh, though I think they are facing this particular situation, I don't see anything very, very disturbing out here because any company which is adapting to the newer technologies, newer products, near critical engineering products, particularly I think as we are talking about the fighter planes. In my viewpoint, I think they are bound to face such kind of tastes in their lifespan, and that is not a deterrent. Maybe I think every such company in the history you go to in the backyard of Western countries, you would find similar such kind of instances happening to them, and they have gained stronger themselves in due course of time, having learned from all this. HL is at the beginning stage in my viewpoint, and I think they could possibly be learning faster than others because the environment is very conducive to learning. So maybe I think instead of giving up, I would think that I think at a lower valuation, this company could become really attractive. Today it has already come down from the previous peak valuations. So I think if it is further moderates, then it's a good opportunity to look afresh into the businesses of HL.
Okay. As always, Deven bhai, it's such a pleasure to listen to you. Thank you for these wonderful views on SBI, L&T, HAL, IDFC, First Bank, and of course, the broader thoughts on the PSU banking sector. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shail. Thank you so much.
That, ladies and gentlemen, was Mr. Deven Choksey, MD at DR Financial Wealth. Please stay glued on Business Television. There's a lot that's happening in the markets, of which the best coverage is on BTTV. Thank you for watching, sir.